You wearing a tie?
Yeah, because I'm in full uniform.
It's a natural beauty. This is just to enhance what's already there. Right? My first memory of the Puerto Rican Day Parade was probably as a little girl hearing my cousins and their friends talk about it.
Every year in March, it's the most exciting parade in the world. I love it. I have such a good time. I'm so proud of being Puerto Rican, and this is the one day everybody loves us.
Okay, Sylvia, you guys are going that way. I'll meet you in the parade. I'm flying over there. Bye.
It's an embarrassment. That's the negative stereotype. The first time that I went to the Puerto Rican Day Parade, I remember seeing everybody dressed in the colors of the flag. The red, the blue, the white, just head to toe. And I was like, what is wrong with these people? Don't they think they're overdoing it just a little bit? You know? And then all of a sudden on the way, this guy is handing out flags, and then I wanted the flags. And then I wanted the beads, and then I wanted the handkerchief, and then I wanted the t-shirt, and then I wanted that, and this, and that. And I wanted to really, really make sure that day made me feel a part of it. People are always asking me, why are you Puerto Ricans so damn proud? And I wanted to address that very question in this documentary. And the only way that I could do that was to talk about our history. When I tell my family and friends the history of our ancestors, they're like, that's us. That's us today. Everybody comes out. Everybody waves the flag because the joy and the pride is infectious. It's undeniable. You just want to go there whether you're Puerto Rican or not.
We have amazing history, we have amazing people that we have to be proud of, we have incredible, beautiful oceans and fantastic food and incredible music and rhythms and colors, because we all come in so many different colors too.
Our history is long, our history is rich. Why am I proud to be Puerto Rican? It's a feeling. It's a feeling. It's something, as I talk to you now, I'm feeling it. Okay.
Listen, this is who we are. We are feisty, we are rowdy, but we're also intellectuals. We have lawyers, we have doctors, politicians,
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Yeah, we have drug dealers and prostitutes, but in your race you have that too, And it was the day to be proud of who you are, This is what I am. Viva Puerto Rico. Aquí estoy.
Why are Puerto Ricans so damn proud? Like if I'm walking with a brother or sister, I go, look at this, I can't believe it. They go, what? I said, Puerto Ricans live there. They go, how do you know? I said, look at the flag on the window. That flag is like part of us.
Oh, he looks Dominican. Think he's Puerto Rican? It says La Puertorriqueña, but then it says Dominican style. That's funny.
What does that mean?
This means Boricua, Puerto Rico. It's a beautiful thing. Yeah. I remember when I was 16 years old, my aunt Minguita, I always refer to her just as Tia, which means aunt. She helped raise me, and she really wanted me to know who I was and where I came from. And she said, I'm a Boricua. I said, you are? Oh, I didn't know. She said, yes, you are too. I said, I am? I didn't know that. And she said, yes. You know, born from the island, and our family, the ancestry goes all the way back to Tainos, the indigenous people. And I went, we do? That made me feel 50 fucking feet tall.
Right, proud.
You know what I'm saying?
But the Puerto Ricans, we're mixed with black and Spaniard and Taino Indian, and that's how we got the Puerto Rican. I feel that too, and I feel very close.
No. We're mixed with black, Spanish, French, Taino, Arawaks, Irish, German.
Wow.
Yes. You got your chinky eyes like Taino.
Yeah, you got the eyes like the Taino, and this is from the Taino too, you know?
When Christopher Columbus arrived in Puerto Rico in 1493, he was welcomed by a 4,000-year-old native culture, the Tainos. They had their own religion and a government that included male and female high chiefs. Infighting was rare. The Tainos built roads and houses that could withstand hurricanes. They were skilled farmers, hunters, fishermen, and expert navigators of the seas.
The more I read about the Tainos, the more I realize, like, we're just like them.
The Tainos were peaceful people.
Exactly.
They were not fighting warriors like that, but they were peaceful Indians.
The favorite diversion of these islanders is dancing. This is in the 1500s.
Yeah.
They organize a dance for no other reason than to pass the time.
Yeah,
Sound
That's
good?
true. That's good.
When
Oh, it's sunny out. It's sunny, all right.
When someone gives a dance, the news travels throughout the territory, and hundreds of persons come from everywhere without being invited.
That's
That's
a party
it.
in Bushwick. The whole
We started crashing. We invented crashing. We were crashing. Everybody was crashing. Yo, what's up? Who's this guy? From another tribe, I heard. We're having a party. I don't know. Where's the pig at?
They had their own form of government, their own civilization. They had roles. They were good people. They were intelligent people. And also they were welcoming people.
Not only in Puerto Rico, when you go, they start putting on the food and the coffee. But here in New York, you go to the house and they get the coffee, get a cafe. You know, right away.
Even when like the Spaniards came and then the Americans came and whatever, and like people talk about how come the Puerto Ricans didn't fight back, and it's just not in their nature. You know what I mean? It wasn't in their nature until they're pushed up against the wall, and then they're like, oh, okay, wait.
Right.
That is a typical Puerto Rican.
Yeah.
You don't fight until you get pushed against the wall, and then all of a sudden, it's on.
Then it's on.
Then it's on.
Then
Then
it's
it's taking
on.
it back. That's right.
When the Spanish began raping the Taino women and enslaving the natives to mine gold, the Tainos fought back. That's when the conquistadors began to commit genocide against the Tainos. Their bows and arrows were no match for the guns of the Spaniards. The land of Borinquen was now under Spanish rule. It was renamed Puerto Rico, or Rich Port. Spanish was made the official language, Catholicism the state religion.
Everybody asks, like, how come the Taino culture is so strong? You know what I'm saying? And then when you read back, you're like,
Oh, man.
they maintain the same type of mind frame for all these centuries, for all these years. And regardless of who came in to destroy it, didn't work.
Rossi, me alegro conocerla, sí, es un placer.
Oh, igual.
Yeah.
Ella es mi hermana.
Pues,
Carmen.
Carmen, mucho gusto en
Mucho
conocerla.
gusto, igual,
Un honor.
gracias.
Vente. There's great tenacity amongst Puerto Ricans, and I find that fascinating because there's a lot of different other cultures that have come to America and their identity is wiped out. But Puerto Ricans did not want to lose their sense of identity because when you grow up, you're Puerto Rican first and foremost.
When I first moved here, then I was definitely Puerto Rican, and that was it. And then time goes on, and having children that are looking at me and going, well, who am I and where do I come from? And it's so fascinating because the last time that we went uptown, there was the music going on, and both of my kids, without any thought process whatsoever, just started to move and dance. And my husband was just so amazed by it. He was like, it's inside them.
My motherland is Puerto Rico. My uncle is Uncle Sam. My uncle's the one who helped me get what I am today. Yes, I owe something to my uncle for teaching me the things I know today, but my madre patria comes first. The love of my mother comes before anything.
Assimilation is a curse because assimilation is the eradication of your identity, of who you are. And in my house, that was never an issue. In my house, there is no issue as to how you identify yourself first. And the first hat you put on is you're Puerto Rican.
Puerto Ricans may know who they are, but many Americans aren't so sure, even though Puerto Ricans have been in the United States for centuries.
We're not newcomers. We've been here from the very beginning. The very first documented presence of a person of color in the island of Manhattan was a freed Puerto Rican slave under the name of John Torres, who had established trade with the Native Americans in the island of Manhattan.
So here you have me. I came in 1922 when I was 5.5. And I arrived in April and I started school in September. And Puerto Ricans did not exist in New York in those days. What I mean by that is nobody knew what a Puerto Rican was. And we would be asked, what are you? And we would have to say, we're Spaniards, because they wouldn't know what Puerto Rico was.
Well, I was born in New York City, and I lived here till I was 10. I lived in Bushwick. It was a very Puerto Rican neighborhood. And at the age of 10, we moved to Puerto Rico. And over there, I was the New Yorican. And when I came back to New York, I was suddenly the girl that came from the banana boat. So, it was like, okay, who am I?
And people were like, what are you? What are you? And this is in 2nd grade, 3rd grade, 4th grade, 5th grade, all the way through college. It's like, when was that gonna stop? What are you? I'm a Puerto Rican. Oh, where is that again? These questions were proposed to me in college? What do you mean, where is Puerto Rico? What are you, a moron? How the hell did you get in here?
In 1898, Puerto Rico was the big prize of the Spanish-American War. Even today, the propaganda of the time feels very familiar. The United States comes bearing banners of freedom, inspired by a noble purpose.
If you look at the images that come out in the newspapers during that period to convince the U.S. public that it should go in, that these are people that are primitive, if you will. They look primitive. And what they're telling the American public is creating an image that by divine right, if that sounds familiar, they should go into Puerto Rico in order to save Puerto Rico and civilize it.
Americans were welcomed by the Puerto Ricans, who hoped that they would finally get their independence. That never happened. Puerto Rico today is more like a colony. It's not a state. It's not a country. Puerto Rico is officially known as a commonwealth. So what does that really mean? Puerto Ricans are United States citizens. They pay taxes. They can be drafted. But if you live in Puerto Rico, you can't vote for president. The fact is, many people still think Puerto Ricans are immigrants.
We came here in 1984. I right away started hearing the jokes, oh, we steal hubcaps and we have switchblades and we cut and we have a lot of kids. And
one of my early experiences is the teacher asked me to stand up in front of the room and talk about the lions and tigers and snakes in Puerto Rico. So who am I to argue with the teacher? I stood up, and I was a barefoot boy but with a lot of cheek, I got up and I talked about the lions and the tigers and the snakes in Puerto Rico. I made it up. But, we were seen as savages. We came from the jungle.
I think that the worst and the most traumatizing stereotypes are the ones that are not necessarily expressed. It's just that this feeling that you get that you're not, that someone or something wants you to feel inferior, and that you're not good enough.
Thank you. I'm going to Nassau Community College for freshman orientation lecture. They've named it Homeless to Hollywood. I've never been homeless. I have no idea where they got that. They do that to us colored folks, But no one's ever told Brad Pitt he was homeless to Hollywood. I'm sorry to bust your bubble, but I've never been homeless. I know it would make for a good dramatic story, but... That I lived in Grand Central Station for No, never, no. Okay. Well, you know what? Don't worry about it. I'll make a good lecture for you, okay? What I want to talk about today is perseverance and dedication, because it means everything to success. I was born and raised in Brooklyn, New York, in Williamsburg, and then in Bushwick. And the biggest struggle that I had being poor was having people recognize that I was an intelligent human being. They thought that since I had an accent and because I was from Bushwick, I must be stupid. There were a lot of times that I didn't handle it well. I punched out a teacher, I got suspended, and I realized, okay, I need another course of action to deal with this frustration.
Like the lives of many Puerto Ricans, the whole history of the island has been filled with examples of facing adversity and bouncing back. Take America's conquest of Puerto Rico. It wasn't all about democracy and freedom. Between the United States government and American corporations, the island was turned into one big military base and sugar plantation.
Sugar becomes sort of the leading export of Puerto Rico to the U.S. and to the world. Aside from the business interest, the other element is that they wanted to have it for the strategic military location. The They wanted to be able to have military bases in the Caribbean to be able to protect the entry of any foreign ships into the Panama Canal.
How did this affect the people of Puerto Rico?
The United States was interested in sugar because of the prices of sugar at that time, and all the land was acquired by the big absentee corporation of the United States to plant sugar. And many people were taken out from their land, and they went to establish the slums.
The farmers are forced off their land. The cities are becoming overcrowded. The poverty level is increasing. That's only like 20 years after the United States came. They did that all in 20 years. I have a picture of Daddy standing in front of their shack, a two-room shack. And it's like 4 people living in a 2-room shack. And they had to go to the bathroom in an outhouse. It was really horrible. It was really rough. And my father and his brother didn't do well until they enlisted in the Army and served for the United States. And it helped them out and it bettered their life. They had money then.
As part of their indoctrination course, Puerto Rican soldiers are taught English at Camp Tortuguero. The island citizens are making a further contribution to the cause of liberty and freedom. These men are preparing to take their places in the ranks of America's fighting men.
My father served in World War II and the Korean War, and they weren't allowed to vote for the president, but they were going to die for the president.
In those days, there were 2 armies. There was the black army and there was a white army. As a Puerto Rican, you never knew what army you were going to be sent to. Blonde, blue-eyed Puerto Ricans were sent to the black units in the army. I was put into the white army. Who made that decision? The guy sitting behind the desk takes one look at you, and you're Puerto Rican, and you're either in this column or that column.
And the same way that they do now in terms of using sometimes the lack of opportunities and choices that some of our sort of young people have, and using that as a way to sort of, push them into the war. They were doing that in Puerto Rico too, at a time when you had also a lot of poverty, and the military became a ticket out.
They're there. They made it.
Yay!
¡Bendición! ¡Eh!
¡Qué camisa más linda!
Sí.
¡Qué bendiga!
My dad. You look good. Look how handsome.
Thank you.
You know? It's my dad.
I make 5 trips around the world. 6, 7, 8 months trip without coming back. But when I was a child, she don't see me much.
When Dad moved from New York to Puerto Rico, this is where we lived. With Tiaya, the house over there. And we used to play there. And there was a pig.
I remember the pig.
They were there.
And I was afraid of the pig.
Yeah, we used to run all around this, taking cherries. I love this place.
Me too.
There's a lot of childhood memories.
Look at that. Oh, I want to take this one right here.
Una toronjita.
It's a spider web.
Ay, qué jíbara. That's it.
So get that one for me.
Ay, Dios mío.
Looked like you wanted to hit me with that one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You got it.
Carmen was always the bully because she was more popular. And she was always the bully, so...
And she was always the nerd, always thought she was more intelligent than everybody, and she knew the right answers and you were wrong. Till this date, I have to deal with that.
The bully continues, you know? What tree is that?
Ese es un de aguacate.
Oh, ooh, look at them. Did you see that?
That was a lagartija.
Oh, okay.
We used to wear them as earrings.
Yeah, okay, you go. Stomp first.
Oh, God.
When your parents would tell you stories as a kid of how it was in Puerto Rico, how they used to pick the fruits from the trees, how they used to lift off the nets from the ocean to feed their family, cut the sugar cane, all those country stories to us that were here most of our lives, it sounded like paradise.
Look at how beautiful.
They're not ready yet. You can't tell. Don't tell them.
I won't.
Rosie, when I was a kid, I used to just sit here and eat the mangoes.
When I would come here with Minguita, we would do the same, but I was afraid of that freaking pig, man.
You know the pig?
And then they told me they killed it one day.
And we sang a song to it before we killed it. We used to sing, ese pobre lechón que murió de repente con un golpe en la frente.
Well, who's older and who's younger?
That's top secret.
Oh, this is making me miss Tia so much. I remember Minguita always telling me how she loved Puerto Rico, but she hated it at the same time as a child because they lived in such poverty. Such poverty. She said that she used to sit on the beach and pray for God to better her life. You know, and she went to the University of Puerto Rico too. You know, she had her education and all. And her first opportunity that she had to go to the United States, she took it. And she first landed on Clinton Street on the Lower East Side. But she moved to Brooklyn because majority of our relatives were there. And to work in a factory. It's a college-educated woman.
Rosie's aunt was swept up in the massive migration of Puerto Ricans to the States in the 1950s. It was the result of an economic program in Puerto Rico called Operation Bootstrap. The plan was to lure American industry to the island, which worked for a while. However, a little-known part of the program was designed to reduce the population by encouraging Puerto Ricans to leave for the States. Some people succeeded here, but for most, the only options were the slums of the Bronx, Harlem, Brooklyn, and New Jersey. Cheap labor to work in factories and on farms.
The Puerto Ricans are the second largest agricultural farm labor program in the history of the U.S.
No.
People don't know that, and they were being sent to New Jersey, to Massachusetts, to Hartford, to the Midwest to work in farms. They were recruited in different parts of Puerto Rico. They were taken to the airport in San Juan, shipped into cargo planes with the beach chairs. For the U.S. and the owners here, it was perfect. They were U.S. citizens. Okay, so it didn't mean that there was no immigration complications or issues too. And they spoke Spanish. They couldn't complain.
My aunt, God rest her soul, she had 5 kids of her own. And she had no room for me, but she made room. My bedroom was the hallway. I swear. My bedroom was the hallway. From the kitchen to the other bedrooms, there was this little tiny hallway. And it was a twin bed pushed to the side, and then a bureau pushed to the other side of the wall. And that was my bedroom. And I loved my bedroom. I loved it because it was mine. And I knew how much it took for her to make that happen.
They worked. They were always on time. They were never late. They never spoke back when they were insulted. They worked. They never went on strike without permission. They never took days off that were not on the calendar. They worked 10 days a week and were only paid for 5. They worked, they worked, they worked and they died.
But that woman never stopped laughing. She never stopped smiling. And there was days where she would go, "Ay, Rossi, I'm so depressed." And I was like, "Yeah?" And she goes, "But tomorrow's another fucking day, huh?" And then she'll start laughing. And that spirit has always fascinated me. The essence within her always fascinated me. This woman used to work 3 jobs a day. And she will get up 4 o'clock in the morning. She'd make sure we all had breakfast, you know.
Juan, Miguel, Milagro, Olga, Manuel.
She was just determined for us to make it, not her.
Puerto Ricans who settled in New York came to be known as New Yorkers.
It wasn't easy being brought up in the Bronx in the late 50s. First of all, they didn't speak my language. To go to school, I had to first go past the drug dealers and past the community bodega. Then I had to go past the gang control areas. And then, at the entrance of the school, I had to deal with the bullies who wanted to take your lunch money away from you.
Y me quedé ahí como hasta las 10 de la noche que ella apareció. En ese trayecto de 2 de la tarde que yo llegué ahí, a 10 de la noche, yo vi en la 105 y primero en todo aquel canto como 2 peleas o 3. Inclusive vi un tipo cojo entrarse a tiro con otro tipo. Y el diablo, esto es Nueva York. Me dieron deseo de volver para atrás mismo, pero ya.
It was about junior high school. So I finally get to go on a date with this girl. And you know, I never thought I was going to go out with her. She was a light-skinned girl. So she brings me home. And her mother says, "And where is this sixth? I want to meet him because you talk so much about him. Where is he?" And her mother comes out very excited, like, you know, ready to meet me. And she says, "Oh my God, so where is this sixth? And it was just like this silence. And I knew right away, I felt like, you know, this separation. Like they're light skinned and I'm dark skinned, and you know, and I have the hair like this, and you know, and they saw me, and like they didn't accept me.
My parents were born in Puerto Rico. They both came to New York as part of that mass immigration of the 50s. My dad was actually a translator in family court, and he didn't foresee us moving back to the island and wanted to give me this identity where, like, you know, I felt I was American. He didn't want me in bilingual programs growing up as a kid. He wanted me in English-only classes. He didn't want people to discriminate against me because I had an accent.
It's the lovely island of Puerto Rico. You want to see where I'm from? Right here. Bayamón, el pueblo del chicharrón, right here.
When I first moved to New York, it was a week before my 14th birthday. For the first 2 years, I refused to speak at all. Not one word would come out in English unless I was in school. I didn't speak English, and because I didn't want to speak English, I figured if I learned to speak English, then that gave my mother the license to keep us here. And I really didn't want to stay here. I just didn't feel like I belonged.
As a kid growing up, I definitely heard, oh, why don't you speak Spanish? And even being a New Yorican and going back to the island from time to time, definitely felt a level of resistance towards complete acceptance. Because I grew up in New York and I didn't speak Spanish. I took it upon myself to learn Spanish. I'm still not fluent. It's going to be a lifetime goal and a lifetime work in progress.
My mother, she did not raise me, but the time that I did spend with her, visiting and spending weekends and what have you, she would only speak to us in English. She taught herself English, and she was very diligent in regards to having her children be Americans and having them to have English as their first language rather than Spanish as their first language. My aunt would speak to me in Spanish all the time, and I would answer her in English, but it was difficult because when I would visit my mom and I would speak Spanish to her, it would anger her, or she would laugh at me because my pronunciation was incorrect, or the grammar was incorrect, or what have you, and it developed a lot of shame and humiliation within me.
So we come from Puerto Rico and we go to school here and we learn English. And then we go home and we speak Spanish. Then we go to school the next morning, we learn English and then Spanish. So we combine both those languages and you get Spanglish. Mira, ¿cómo tú estás? All right, what's up, man? How you doing, man? How's everything going? Damn, mira esa mujer, brother, está linda, brother, wow. And we know this. We speak Spanglish in my house. Like my mother would say to me, mira, Junior, vete a botar la basura. You motherfucker, you.
What does speak mean, though?
Don't speak
From
Spanish.
don't
Speak English. Don't speak English.
Oh, that's where it's from.
Mi pana. No, people
Mi
don't
pana.
Pana comes from
Oh,
partner.
la jara.
That's my partner, mispronunciation.
That's my partner.
My partner, yeah.
That's my partner.
Yeah, like your
That's
father,
funny.
your father used to say partner, it sounds like pana.
Wow.
Como los puertorriqueños de los embush.
Ajá, es
Mira, los puertorriqueños de los embush es embushiteando.
Bushing.
That's the real word, bushiteando.
How do you say barbecue in Spanish? And everyone went, barbecue.
Barbecue comes from a Taino word.
Barbacoa.
It comes from what?
From a Taino word.
Barbecue?
Yeah, from carrot word.
Wait, hold on. Barbecue is a Puerto Rican word?
Yeah. It's a Caribbean word. Hammock, hamaca, hurricane.
Hurricane.
Lonche.
Yeah,
with a C.
El lonche.
Yeah, lonche, they're right there.
La fornitura.
Sándwiches.
What's the Spanish
word for sandwich?
Who knows?
Emparedado.
Para mí es sandwich. Jamón y queso.
But the whole thing is that, Puerto Rican.
What is it, pa? You know it?
Emparedado. But Puerto Ricans don't speak Spanish.
Nah.
We speak Puerto Rican and we
Yeah.
have our own language.
Spanglish.
Yeah. We don't speak Spanish or English.
That's a lot.
We kept cooking the rice and we heated the beans and making cushy fritos. The hot times were plenty, the pockets stay empty, pero eso nunca dies. And juntos we survive, and that's after we cry, defending nuestro pride. I know.
Just like hip-hop gave voice to the urban experience, Pedro Pietri and the other poets of the New Yorican Poets Cafe gave voice to the experience of New Yoricans.
When the plane takes off again, I know that there will be no return trip for me back to New York City. I am blessed by the sun, donde my roots are from. Here we come. And with my family, we'll struggle and believe that one day we'll be free.
Pedro's poetry spoke of oppression and liberation. It's a common theme shared by many of Puerto Rico's heroes. Perhaps the greatest of all was Pedro Albizu Campos. He spent his life fighting for the rights of Puerto Rican people.
Carmen! This is the man. This is the man. He just fought for human rights, and it's just an inspiration.
This is a Harvard graduate, an intelligent man of African descent, who was educated within the United States and had the opportunity to see racism here, to see discrimination here, to see the division between class, so that when he formulates his thinking, it's based on seeing the United States in its fullest and its broadest sense.
In 1930, he became president of the Puerto Rican Nationalist Party and was its outspoken champion for independence and civil rights.
I knew him because my father was in the Nationalist Party, and I was a boy, and I visited my father's office where he was there too. And he was very kind with children, and a very distinguished person, not only from the political point of view, but as a lawyer and as an intellectual. And he was a great leader who sacrificed all his life for the defense of Puerto Rico.
Albizu Campos's call for independence ignited a fire in Puerto Ricans. In 1935, unrest came to a full boil when police opened fire on protesters at the University of Puerto Rico. In retaliation, a police officer was assassinated. His assailants executed. In 1937, the government responded by jailing Albizu Campos. Outraged, a demonstration made up mostly of the upper class and students was organized in the western city of Ponce.
They planned a march from here to the plaza on Palm Sunday in 1937. But the police were here.
The police were where?
On this balcony, and some of the army, I think, were down on that corner and on that corner, and in the center of the street, we are told that there were the people from this Nationalist Party who were marching dressed in black shirts and white trousers. And under this balcony and across the street were the general public. And nobody knows who fired the first shot.
When the smoke cleared, 21 lay dead. 200 more were wounded. The song the Nationalists played that day would eventually become the Puerto Rican national anthem, La Borinqueña.
It was originally written as a cry for Puerto Rican independence against Spain.
Everybody played it, people hummed it. So because it was a popular melody, Lola Rodriguez de Tio wrote lyrics. And eventually, because it was associated with resistance, it became even illegal to hum or whistle the melody. So it became a very powerful tool of spreading that message. And so that's why it was repressed.
There is no need to fear, Puerto Ricans, the roar of the cannon. Saving the nation is the duty of the heart. We no longer want despots. Tyranny shall fall now. The unconquerable women also will know how to fight. We want liberty, and our machetes will give it to us. Come, Puerto Ricans, come now. We hope and wait for freedom. Wait for freedom. Freedom. Freedom.
of people in Puerto Rico were getting imprisoned and shot just for believing in the cause of independence. At the time, the U.S. government allows no opposition to U.S. rule. To use the Puerto Rican flag is an act of treason. So anybody who's openly pro-independence needs to be criminalized.
In the 1950s, Puerto Rican nationalists were so frustrated, they took their fight for independence to the nation's capital.
In Washington, scenes of confusion naturally followed news of the shooting outrage. The 5 representatives injured in the affray were rushed to hospital. The assailants were Puerto Ricans, led by this woman, Mrs. Lolita Lebron, said to have shouted, "Free Puerto Rico."
Puerto Rico rounds up its nationalist fanatics following the wounding of 5 U.S. congressmen. Ringleader of the group, Pedro Campos, is subdued after a 2-hour gun battle with police. Linked to communists, the nationalist arsenal is believed to have been supplied by Reds, now being hunted throughout the island.
Pedro Alviso Campos was in and out of prison during the last 25 years of his life. In a letter from his cell in Atlanta dated May 1951, he said his life was in danger. He wrote that he was repeatedly tortured with electric shock. Even his prison bed was wired. As soon as I laid my head on the pillow, I received another electric shock on the right side of my face.
Wow. He just wanted his country to be independent, to be free. He wasn't trying to overthrow the United States. He was just saying, let us be free. Unfortunately, he died at the hands of Crow people. They tortured and killed him, but they never killed his spirit because it's here now. And, you know, I guess that's how African Americans feel about Martin Luther King. You know, how Cubans feel about Che. You know, it's this is our Che.
Very few Puerto Rican heroes are included in the history books.
Nobody even knows about these people. Some of these people, for the first time right now, I'm hearing their name.
Ramon Betances was one of the most influential voices calling for the end of slavery on the island during Spanish rule. Over time, many Puerto Ricans have achieved positions of political power in the federal and state governments. Others have wielded an enormous influence on our culture, from Black history scholars to pioneers in bilingual education. Jose Campeche and Francisco Oller were world-famous painters in the 18th and 19th centuries. And many others have followed in their footsteps.
Like Rafael Hernandez, he was a well-known composer all through Latin America, Mexico.
And he's from Aguadilla.
And he's from Aguadilla. Yeah. This is Rafael Rodriguez, Pepito Albelo, Rafael Hernandez, Bobby Capó, y Milta Silva. And they formed what is called El Cuarteto Victoria. And there's Tito Puente over there.
Look at these wonderful poets.
Oh, Julia de Burgos.
Yeah.
It's the actors and musicians Americans are most familiar with. Many familiar faces are, in fact, Puerto Rican.
I was discovered by Spike Lee. He was an actor for the longest. I go on the movie set. I don't know anything about acting. And then one of my siblings on my mother's side, who's a half sibling, wanted to go out with this guy named Angel, and she said he has a friend.
Oh my God.
He has a friend named.
Oh, I know what you're talking about.
He has a friend named Sixto, and I don't want to go out with Angel by myself. Will you double date with me with this guy Sixto? I go, Sixto, that name sounds familiar. And she goes, what do you mean? I said, I don't know, that sounds so familiar. And she's like, oh, please, just come. And so when we go, she came to the movie set, and she said, that's Sixto. I went, he looks so familiar. And something in me went, nah, I'm not going to go. I'm not going to go. And then later, I found out this guy's my fucking cousin. And I was like, oh, my God. And then Minguita, Tia goes, I go, Tia, do I have a cousin named Sixto Ramos? Yes, you do. You used to take baths with him and everything. I went, oh, God, I almost went on a date with him.
This is it.
We are in fabulous Miami, and we came down here because there's so many family members that I haven't met yet. That's very Puerto Rican, by the way. You'll meet cousins throughout your life that you've never met.
I'm probably related to Rita Moreno.
Stupid.
See people we've never seen before. We're afraid.
Don't you knock?
Hey! Come in. No, we don't knock.
Welcome. Hi. Hi. Hi, Rosie. Nice to meet you. Tia told me, Minguita, she told me that it was kept a secret for several generations, 2, 3, and she said a lot of the people in the family do not like to speak about this, but you should know, there's no shame in it. And she says if people are family, they're family, that's it, and you have to go search for them and you have to go look for them. Hi, good to see you. That's your grandson?
All cousins.
We share a great-grandfather.
Right.
Who came to the island. He was a priest. No, what?
Minister.
A minister. He came to save the savages in Puerto Rico. Instead, he kind of like...
Save the woman.
Saved the woman. He had an affair with our great-grandmother, but he married your great-grandmother. Do you know that story?
I didn't know that.
Minguita told me that this man here came to Puerto Rico, right? Lived there. He had an affair with another woman who is she's your great-great-grandmother? Right, with our great-great-grandmother, but he didn't marry her. Then he got this woman pregnant and they got married. And so the children from our great-great-grandmother were considered bastards. And she didn't want her children to interact or have a relationship with his other children. And Tío Justo broke that. He defied his mother and said, I don't care, that's my blood. And so he always looked out for outside of the family. And that's how outside of the family and us came to know each other. And then our cousin Sixto is on the other side of the family. We're on the illegitimate side. He's on the legitimate side. I know he doesn't look legitimate, but his family really is on the legitimate side. Your great-grandmother came from a family with money, and they were like white skin, and they had money, so he married them.
Yeah, what part of that white didn't I get? And where was the money? It must have just, when it got to us, it's over. We don't have no more money. Don't do it. Don't show no damn picture of me when I was, oh my God. I look Cuban. Look at me. I look like a German Shepherd. You look like a Chihuahua there, bro. Oh my, look at this.
Where's the glasses?
No. Oh my God. Every time you went to school and there was all these white kids, they were looking at me like, "I'm gonna get you, mother." Oh shit. Look at the shirt. That's the shirt that we wore. I took the picture first, came home, gave the shirt to Edgar, then he went.
Look, there it is.
There it is.
That's the proof.
I went to the school first, took the picture, went back to the house, and gave my brother the shirt. You see that? I'm not lying to you. And my friend sees the picture, and she goes, "Oh, that's cute, this girl." She said, "Your mother used to dress you like twins." I go, No, we're not twins. You can see I look a little more black than he does. And my mother, she goes, don't tell anybody we're poor. And I go, I think they know.
Yeah, Carmen.
No, not me. I'm not. Don't get me.
Oh my God.
Oh, no. I didn't throw none.
Okay, look.
Ouch. It's your fault.
This is the museum of the city of New York.
Whoa, this is nice.
Whoa.
After the 1917 Jones Act naturalized all Puerto Ricans as American citizens, many more Puerto Ricans left the island and moved stateside. By the 1930s, some 50,000 Puerto Ricans had settled in New York. I didn't even know that. 50,000 in 1930 Puerto Ricans.
Wow. Puerto Rican flag designed in New York City by Puerto Rican exiles fighting to end Spanish colonial rule on the island.
Wow.
That was New Yorkers. They made that flag.
You know, my grandmother lived right on 111 in Madison Avenue, 40 years.
You know what's amazing though, Carmen, is that, I mean, this is specific to El Barrio in New York experience. But outside of this, it's like all the research that we've been doing, it's so hard to find information about the sterilization. It was a legislative act passed in the United States government, and it was to control the population in Puerto Rico. They put sterilization clinics in the factories where the women worked, and they would bring their maletas to the factory, go overnight, get sterilized, and go home. Go back to work the next day.
Oh my God.
20 years ago, the sterilization policy was documented in a film called La Operación.
In Puerto Rico, government efforts to control population continue.
Vine un día porque estaba faltando a las clínicas de planificación, porque no es bueno que tenga los niños así corridos. Ok, gracias. Doña Teresa, nosotros queremos saber la razón por la cual usted no está asistiendo a las clínicas. Déjeme darle la cita, que no se le olvide mañana.
En la mañana de hoy vamos a tener una charla sobre esterilización femenina.
In many cases, what happened was that women would go to the hospital for different procedures, and when they came back home, they had been sterilized. Nobody had asked them for their consent. Nobody had asked them for their opinion. It was just part of public policy because they were supposed to be promoting a better good by keeping the population under check.
Nadie me dijo nada que había algo mejor, porque el mismo doctor, yo tenía en ese tiempo 22 años, y siendo él un profesional, no me dijo que había otra alternativa.
Gracias a Dios, el programa de esterilización femenina dio magníficos resultados y un éxito favorable del programa de esterilización femenina aquí en Barcelona fue el cierre de numerosas escuelas en el barrio Boca, en el barrio Palenque, en Quebrada, en Las Tosas y en el sector Puerto Blanco, porque ya no había niños para los primeros grados.
Puerto Rican women were also used as guinea pigs to test birth control pills before they were FDA approved.
Y cogí el pote de las pastillas y me tomé una y no había echado nada al estómago. Entonces, pues ahí cuando me tomé la pastilla, pues sentí que se me fue el mundo y se me puso la vista como que se me oscureció. Entonces, pues yo lo único que dije fue, Virgen del Carmen, acompáñame mis hijos.
The United States needs places to test its medicines, to test its products. And we became the test case. It's such a tiny island. Why are there so many pharmaceutical companies in Puerto Rico? Why is there so many military bases in Puerto Rico? Because Puerto Rico was a test case and continues to be a test case for the United States.
La Marina criminal. La tenemos que sacar.
to the President of the United States of America, George W. Bush. After 60 long years of abuse and environmental degradation, we are saying enough is enough. Ni una bala más, ni un tiro más.
Before World War II, a thriving community lived on Vieques. Then the Navy came in, displaced the inhabitants, and took over 2/3 of the island, turning it into a bombing range. The Navy's activities destroyed the farming and fishing industries, ruining the economy and the environment. They tested Agent Orange on the forest before using it in Vietnam, and even exploded munitions containing depleted uranium. Finally, the people of Vieques decided they had enough.
Mariposa, who's an activist and poet, called me up and said, "We really need you. It's been 20 years since we have been protesting. Nothing has happened." And this guy named David Sands was killed by a test missile, accidentally. And they were like, enough is enough. We got to get this stopped. And I heard so many people, yeah, I'm going to be there. Yeah, I'm going to be there. I'm going to be there. About 16 people showed up. Majority of them were senior citizens over the age of 65. I was like, where is everybody? They go, everybody's here. Now, look, this is our agenda. This is a paper that we need you to sign. This is what we're demanding from the United Nations. Okay, so now everyone, just to get a head count, raise your hand again. Everyone who's going to get arrested. Everyone's hand went up except mine. And I was like, arrested? No one told me I'm getting arrested. And Blanco's like, you're not going to raise your hand? I go, no. And she goes, you didn't know we were going to get arrested? I go, no. And she goes, we're protesting on the steps of the UN. What the hell did you think was going to happen? I went, oh. She goes, okay, you don't have to raise your hand. I go, oh. I was so reluctant. I was shaking in my boots, you know? And then all of a sudden, the police officers start escorting us into a paddy wagon. As soon as I get into the paddy wagon, they close the door and then, like, the cameras are gone. And I go, what's going on? Oh my God, I've never been arrested. And I go, why isn't anybody else upset? And then they start laughing. The older women, they went, Rosie popped a cherry. It's her first time. All right, Rosie. Then I said, how many times have you been arrested? And Doña Rosa goes, oh, I don't know, like 22, 23 times. And all of a sudden, I just calmed down. And she quietly said, you're part of history now.
After 60 years of test bombing, several years after the death of David Sands, the people of Vieques won their fight.
After the death of David Sands in 1999, the Navy said that only one person died. So we make this to show how many people died from the presence of the Navy.
The naval bases closed in 2003, and 2/3 of the island was left as a nature preserve. But the toxic waste continues to poison the land and the people.
I need a hit of Puerto Rico, Bushwick, baby. Go to Bushwick. Go back home. Age before beauty.
Oh, yes.
The longest that I can go without eating Puerto Rican food is probably
Cilantro, culantro.
4 days. Or a week, if it's drastic. Peppers.
Onions.
I used to eat this as a snack. It's smoked herring.
Mackerel. Oh. Herring.
Oh, it's herring, right? Yeah. Oh, it's so delicious. I used to eat this instead of candy. Mmm. Sticks.
The memory of the island continually tugs at New Yorkers. Hidden away in vacant lots all over the city are pockets of Puerto Rican culture. These casitas, small houses, are invisible to most Americans. It seems only the New Yorkers can see them.
I got out of the car and I just stood like dumbfounded. And when I saw the casita, it was like a shock. It was like, boom, that looks like the casita that I was born in Puerto Rico, my God. So then when I went through the gates, and I go in, and it was like I was in the middle of Puerto Rico in the country somewhere. Wow, I felt like I was at home.
Rico Criollo is basically a little cultural oasis in the middle of the South Bronx. And Rico Criollo is better known as La Casita de Chema, basically because Don Jose Manuel Chema Soto is the founder. It was his initiative to rescue this place. This place was literally an empty crater full of garbage, just junk cars, and that was back when the Bronx was undergoing, total abandonment by government, by development. Everything was burning, everybody was leaving, and you had all these empty lots that no one wanted anything to do with. And Chema and his friends basically started out by clearing out a little corner so they could put a few chairs and hang out and play their music. Criollo basically has been a place that for over 30 years has been a gathering spot for master practitioners of Puerto Rican traditional music. If they don't have a place where they can gather with each other to share it or practice it, then it's dead. And if they don't have a place where they can hang out with younger people and they can pass it down, then it's dead. Something that reminds us where we come from and that we didn't always live cramped up, one piled up on top of each other.
In the early years, maintaining our cultural ties was not half as difficult as establishing a political presence. Americans danced to our music and loved our food, but our voices were not being heard. In the 1960s, a group of Puerto Rican activists called the Young Lords made sure New Yorkers were heard all year long.
All of the leadership was basically college students that had studied their history, generally on their own, and understood what Albizu understood. And that ignited a fever in them saying, we want our justice. We want our peace. Mm-hmm. We want it here.
Tu libro.
young New Yorkers, Puerto Ricans do not know what the Young Lords were about. Did not know that they existed. Do you know the Young Lords?
No, not really, but I heard a little bit about it and I want to learn more about it.
My name is Luis Cardinal Costa.
And your affiliation with the
And I'm an old Young Lord.
My name is Vicente Alba Panama. I'm a former Young Lord. You know, we established Puerto Rican identity in this country as a people, as a political force.
It is very hard for young people today to understand that we grew up in a city that had no Puerto Rican leaders per se, that Herman Badillo was the only one, that there was never a Puerto Rican chancellor, that there was never a Puerto Rican head of a medical institution, that there were very few, I could count them on one hand, Puerto Rican principals in the city of New York, that there was no such thing, no notion of Puerto Rican studies. All of that happened because a group of very young people decided basta ya.
Can you tell me about the garbage incident that the Young Lords ignited in the city?
There was one policy for the middle and upper middle classes of the city of New York and one policy for the poor. People in Bedford-Stuyvesant, people in the South Bronx, people in East Harlem, their garbage wasn't picked up on a regular basis. It just piled up and you could see rats all over the place. It was amazing.
And what year was this?
1968, 69, but it was in 69 that we got together and said, you know, we can't do this. You know, if we begin to look at this garbage and let it lie, we begin to think of ourselves as garbage.
You know, they were dressing with army fatigue jackets and berets and what have you. And, you know, there was one time where they just completely shut down the city. So you literally put the garbage in the middle of the street and you lit it on fire?
Yes.
And did they pick up the garbage?
Oh, they not only picked up the garbage, but every weekend there were helicopters over East Harlem. There were police all over the place trying to find us, and we would organize ourselves in such a way as to lighting it up, screaming, and then running into the bars and restaurants and coming out with the people and saying, gee, I guess the Young Lords were here.
By the early 1970s, the Young Lords were everywhere. They took over a hospital to call attention to poor health care. When they learned the tuberculosis rate in their neighborhood was twice as high as the rest of the city, they hijacked an X-ray truck to test people for the disease. And just before New Year's 1969, the Young Lords took over a church on Lexington Avenue and 111th Street.
The First Spanish Methodist Church is empty 6 days a week. It has the largest space available for community service programs. We never ask to control the church. We only ask for a daycare center. Many of our mothers cannot go to work. We also ask for cooperation in terms of running a breakfast program for needy children.
And their educational program, their breakfast program, was key, you know, because they had already studied that a child can't learn if he doesn't have breakfast. A child can't learn if he's eating lead paint from tenements. Tuberculosis, asthma, they challenged all of it and ignited a community to fight for its own right and understand that it had a right for voice.
If they want to come in, they must bust the doors down, and they will find us teaching our children, feeding our children, and taking care of our children in the daycare center.
After 11 days, the police broke down the doors of the church and arrested 105 Young Lords. The self-described polite revolutionaries had succeeded in getting the city to start dealing with the problems in the barrio. 35 years after the young lords took over that church, the funeral for one of the greatest Nuyorican heroes was held there. The memory of the occupation was very much alive on that day.
Long live my good friend and one of the greatest American poets and playwrights of his generation. Long live Pedro Pietri.
In the end, all we can ask for is the epitaph of courage on our tombstones. The Pietris went against the norm. Think about this, Puerto Ricanos. We are a people who are here, 3 million in this country, and we better make a decision about who we want to be and where we want to go.
That's right.
Pedro is sitting right there. He always made fun of our hypocrisy. Where do you want to go? What do you want in this state? What do you want in this country? Who do you want to be? What do you want your children to be? Do not let people fool you. There is still a war going on.
That's right.
Keep on playing around and you will lose this. They will say there once was a people called Puerto Rican. They were cute, they were bilingual, and they lost. And they will talk about you like they talk about the Sioux Indians. They were hip, but they ain't here no more. We laugh, but it's true. Every other Latino group that has come says to me, if it wasn't for Puerto Ricans,
That's right.
we would not be here.
In the deepest crevices of my heart, I truly believe that the Puerto Rican Day Parade has helped me find my identity or reclaim my identity as a Puerto Rican American woman.
Why a parade? You have to go back to 1955, 1956, when Puerto Ricans were coming into the New York City area by the hundreds of thousands. And we became the largest Hispanic group in this area.
Puerto Ricans were spread throughout the 5 boroughs with no cohesive community or political voice. Pro-independence violence wasn't helping their image either.
A group of Puerto Ricans decided that it was time for Puerto Ricans to have their own event. We had no office, so all these people used to meet in Chuito's barbershop.
Oh my goodness.
Can you imagine, Rossi, what it was like for somebody who came to this country in the 50s and not being totally fluent, but to have the guts to say, we gotta have a parade. We gotta show the world who we are. We gotta show the world what we can do and what we have done for this country.
Orgullo, orgullo is a Spanish word that means pride, but much more than pride. It's kind of a love of one's culture and a love of one's history and traditions.
Sunday, April 12, 1958, Puerto Ricans had their first parade in El Barrio. And then after that is history.
So we had our parade. It rained the day before the parade. It rained all day of that parade. The reviewing stand got unglued and collapsed.
So the initial intent was to reclaim or reconnect with the island through your hometown, where your family is from. When people go, why are you Puerto Ricans so loud? It's because they're screaming for their hometown. We're shouting out for our mothers, our grandfathers, our ancestors, like, yeah, Aguadilla. That's what it's about.
Hello, how are you?
Very proud, it's our hometown, Aguadilla! Aguadilla!
We love you. Take care.
One of the very first times I went was with my mom. people are yelling and go, Boricua! And it was just like, I felt so proud that day. I felt like if I was 10 feet tall, man. It was such an experience that day, and my mother was happy. My mother doesn't get happy about anything, and she was at the parade, and she was happy, and it was that kind of energy.
It's okay with Rossi. I want to get a picture with George, too, because I love him right here.
It's my cousin Six, I'm sorry. Thank you.
So for me, the Puerto Rican parade is an expression of the fact that, quote, we have arrived, and quote, we belong, and quote, we're as good as anybody else, you know? A parade represents political power.
Listen, don't get me wrong, I'm happy to be United States. I love it. You know, this is where I was born, but I also have the Puerto Rican in me. The Spanish lives in me. You know, you can't take it out.
Being Puerto Rican is part of a culture, of a family culture that keeps us together, that keeps us remembering that the important things are the bonds that hold you to me and me to you, because that means we survive.
Being Puerto Rican to me first is more important than anything. So even though I've been here all my life, I don't know, I just feel I feel proud of my people.
We're like the Weeble Wobbles. You could push a Puerto Rican down 100 times and we will boing, come right back up. Right back up.
But the weather, you can say whatever. Ask around, man, I've been in this game forever. Cause I rep my peeps like Che Guevara. And I bring it to geeks that claim they better. Trendsetter, known to rock a party and drop a little jewel like Robert Marley. Original like Atari, I'm sorry, but dudes ain't messing with T cause they hardly got their feet wet. Me, I get respect. East, west, they be like, he's fresh. Préndelo y quítate tú pa ponerme yo. Yeah, I'm knocking crews out their shoes. OG homes paid lots of dues. Stayed on my grind making lots of moves. Now I'm buying out the bar up in Babalu. ¿Qué tú quieres, Dime lo que tú quieres, Dime lo que tú quieres, Dime lo que tú quieres, Dímelo. Un palo, un trago. Aquí yo quiero un trago. Un palo, un trago. Aquí llegó el caballo. Lo que me van a dar, que me lo den en vida. Mr. Capicú with another heater. You know how we do. Straight mantequilla up in your spot with the big drum beater. Ay bendito, live from New York City / Puerto Rico.
I'm gonna put some tomato